Hello and welcome to the first Pod Well Travelled for 2023. I'm Will Yeoman, and joining me today are Mogens Johansen and Stephen Scourfield. Gentlemen, did you have a good, long week? I don't know. You can't say, did you have a good New Year, because this is the new year. What about, did you have a good New Year's day?
I'm having a good New Year.
You're having a good New Year?
Yeah, I had a good New Year's Day.
Excellent.
Yeah, mine was okay too, thanks, Will.
Yeah. we don't care about you. We're not worried about you. No, seriously.
We do care about you, Mogens.
It's great to have you both back on board for what's looking to be another interesting year.
Well,
Stephen, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, just straight off, because obviously, a big part of our lives is print.
Yes.
And we've just been looking at the editions for Saturday, the 7th of January. We've got 32 printed pages of travel across that weekend in Saturday and Sunday travel. And this is my 21st season as travel editor.
Right.
And I've never seen such a fast start, so many pages to a year. I actually looked back last night to make sure I was right. And we've never had a first week in January.
Okay, and what do you attribute that to?
Well, obviously, those pages are driven by advertising as well. Advertising creates editorial space, basically. And, there's a lot of advertising, so companies are very keen to get their offers in front of audience, of our readers, and it's driven by that. And I think everyone's just keen to make this year will be smoother than last year. And even into 2024, they really need to get cranked up and fill up their seats in planes and ships and everything else, and everyone's full on and ready to go. Interesting.
Now, Mogens, we'll talk about events with you in a moment, but just while we're talking to Stephen, I just want to talk a little bit about China, because that is an ongoing story, isn't it?
It's
just to bring listeners up to speed.
Yep.
Well, what are the facts?
Well, you bring them up to speed, and I'll add to
Well, basically, since China has opened up somewhat disastrously, I think it's fair to say, but although the lack of accurate reporting makes it difficult to ascertain exactly what's going on there, certain countries, including now Australia, just very recently have decided that they will have to submit a negative PCR test, I believe.
Yes.
Before entering Australia.
Yes.
And the Chinese are... Well, they're not very happy about that. I saw a spokesperson only this morning on the news, actually, making an official statement saying, there will be repercussions.
Yeah.
So it's the usual tit for tat that we've seen over the last few years.
It is, isn't it? One thing that we've learned in the last, let's just call it 3 years, is that everything's, brief and transitional.
Yes.
That this phase of, as you say, of Chinese people being allowed to... I mean, the speed of change there has been quite so dramatic, from total lockdowns and zero policy to now everybody's out and nobody has to test anywhere. It's kind of... That feels like quite a shock to the world system, I suppose.
Well, it's not dissimilar to something that we did here in Australia and perhaps the UK as well.
True.
With the single exception that most of them are wearing masks, whereas we're not. So.
True. So I think, we just learned that everything's transitional. So, yes, some countries are testing. Yes, some countries are not testing. But that will pass and, there'll be some saber rattling and then that will all move on from that. I think the bigger effect for this year is you've got 1.4 billion people able to travel again. And yes, there's high levels of COVID at the moment, and that will change again. But I mean, you've got particularly in Asia, you've got countries really gearing up for Chinese visitation. I mean, that changes everything. We have been speaking on here and writing about the fact that, particularly in Bali and in other parts of Asia and other parts of the world, it's been a very quiet sort of phase, because Chinese and Russian visitation is significant in some places, and it's been absent. The Russian arrivals in Thailand last month, quadrupled over the month before. So suddenly there's 109,000 Russian arrivals in Thailand alone, where it was 16,000 in September. So, I think those big movements of travelling populations, so particularly China with that 1.4 billion people, has an effect on the rest of the travelling public because suddenly it'll be busy again. And,
absolutely.
And as you say, some countries won't test, and and you will get COVID travelling as well, and others won't. And
so how do you think Australia will fare with increased visitation from Chinese people? Because I mean, we're pretty much under the pump with staff and that sort of stuff. I mean, we're barely coping as it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
good question.
We are, and it will. Well, in terms of COVID, I mean, look, if you want COVID, go to the Mornington Peninsula. I mean, there are various parts of Australia which are kind of, having very, very high levels. So that's
I didn't mean so much the COVID side of it. More,
with just the influx, coping with the influx
with demand.
Yes.
The touring companies will be very, very happy because even though we've got lots of people staying at home, holidaying at home in WA, in Western Australia, and you've got VFR, visiting friends and relatives, so you've got people coming from Melbourne and da-da-da. But they don't really do tours, very much, whereas inbound Chinese, for example, will do tours. So the touring companies will be very happy, and the sort of day tours, the Margaret River wine tours and all that sort of stuff, and the minibuses and da-da-da, that's all very good for them. It'll be interesting to see if there's an effect on price, because we all know that we've been paying, I mean, the catchphrase for Western Australia over the last couple of years has been, twice the price and half the service. And it'll be very interesting to see whether there's any effect on price. But certainly there'll be pressure on staffing levels and on service. You're absolutely right. Interestingly, we have got the start of the Philippines direct flight between Perth and Manila, which frankly is more about people coming in than people going out. Although for us it's interesting as a tourist proposition, I say cautiously. But I mean, that's obviously, that is aimed at bringing, staff in to help, particularly in hospitality. So yeah, look, we're in transition throughout this year as well, but you're right, Mogens. It will be interesting to see what the effect is.
Yeah, I think it'll certainly test some of the accommodation and hospitality providers around the state.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. Now, Stephen, before we leave you and talk to Mogens about Photowalks and so forth.
You're leaving me.
No. Well, before we tell you to just get out and don't come back, what are you looking forward to this year, this new year? What's happening on the travel landscape that you're excited about?
It's a huge year for us, for the three of us, for the whole travel team here, because we've got so many events and so many trips. I'm off to the US in a couple of weeks' time, so we sort of start very fast this year.
Actually, I'm glad you touched on that. The US, there's an interesting situation there with the new variant coming out and so forth. What, 40% of people now have the new, BBX.1.5, I think? Yeah. Is that something that you're slightly worried about? Or?
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
No, COVID can't touch this body.
Excellent.
It's just not at all.
Excellent.
Can't or won't.
Very good, Mogens. Won't. Not even COVID will touch him.
No,
I like it.
I think what I'm excited about this year is looking for and hopefully starting to feel, and I think I'm going to feel, as more smoothness in travel.
Right.
Or
frictionless, as we like to say.
Yeah, frictionless, contactless.
Contactless.
I'd like to feel it's going to get smoother this year.
Things will start to settle down.
For lots of us travelling, it's been fine. You get on the plane. I mean, even Mogens, we were talking about this like almost a year ago. You went off to Europe and it was fine, and I went off to Europe and it was fine, and so on. But then you do get rubs, bumpy spots. You turn up at Buenos Aires airport at 9 o'clock at night, and there's 11 planes landed and the 3 people on passport control, So there's still these sort of, when it breaks down, it's messy. Yeah. I'm looking forward to feeling that there's more smoothness coming through in all the systems and so on. And, obviously staffing and the way, I mean, we think of the travel industry, but of course it's many industries, from ticketing to airlines to, luggage handling to concierges in hotels. There's many separate components of the industry, and there's some sense to me of this being disjointed, dysfunctional at the moment, where there's just breakdowns between those elements, and I'd like to feel that that's going to start to feel smoother this year.
Yeah, well, I think we can all.
That's
we're all
my
with you
new
on that
wish.
one. That's your prediction, your great prediction for 2023. And Mogens, Photowalks with Phones is back with a vengeance. But also, you're involved in the New Norcia weekend, our annual, very popular New Norcia weekend. What can you tell us about those two events?
Well, let's start with the Photowalk, because that's kicking off
pretty soon.
Feb 12.
Yeah,
the first one of the year, and it's been sort of. We keep saying this, but I mean, it's been pretty amazing how popular they are, because initially when we kicked them off, it was we're thinking, well, how much can we really sort of teach people about, their mobile phones and so on. But it's turned out to be a sort of really fun and interactive event where, it's perhaps even more fun than the photo walks that we used to run, because they often became a little technical for some people, I think, because we focused very much on cameras, DSLRs and so on. Where the photo walks, it's much more sort of accessible for everyone. It is actually, the phones are, very intuitive to use, but there are some tips and sort of tricks that we can help with that sort of hopefully will make your pictures better, and amongst them are things like looking for or identifying what makes a good picture, using things like composition and framing to sort of enhance the look of your pictures. So we practice all these things, and we have I think I'm not only speaking from us who've all been involved in it, but it seems to us that people have a lot of fun when they come along too. So it's a good morning. We start usually at 9 o'clock in the morning and then go for 2.5 hours and just a stroll around the city, looking for pictures, practicing some of these things that will ask people to try out, things like using leading lines and rule of thirds and framing and all that sort of stuff. So it's a good day.
Yeah. Did you find you get a lot of repeat offenders?
We do get some, but generally speaking, it's a fresh crowd every time.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And Stephen, you obviously you involved in most of these walks as well.
I tag along.
You tag along
in his wake. Yes,
that's not true.
Just mopping his brow and passing him water. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just the ball boy.
Got a sort of a Pandas Lee fan or something.
That's right.
Just keeping him.
I'm on one corner of the palanquin. Yeah.
But both of you and myself, we're all involved in the New Norcia weekend, which is what is it? April, May? Sorry, I should have known.
April the 29th and 30th.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too far wrong. Again, something that we all look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a terrific weekend, and New Norcia is such a good place because you can. We virtually got the place to ourselves when we're there, don't we?
Pretty much
so it's a great place to sort of teach, I guess. But also for the people participating in the writing workshops or the photographic walks and that sort of stuff. There's plenty of time and plenty of different scope for exploring all kinds of genres, certainly of photography. There's the architecture up there, and there's usually quite a lot of bird life around.
Absolutely.
It's just a really interesting place, sort of certainly photographically, to walk around and capture some great sets of pictures.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And Stephen, it's like this microcosm of the world, isn't it? In miniature, you just feel like you've got everything there. It's self-contained.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Probably just if I take one step to the side and explain for anyone who's listening who doesn't quite get it, is that Will runs a travel writing workshop throughout the 2 days, which covers all sorts of aspects of style and structure and approach. and Mogens runs a photographic workshop over the 2 days, teaching and with sessions in the classroom, but also then, you could be in Spain really, couldn't you? With some of those chapels doing interiors and so on. So there's 12 places on each of those, and then I do
nothing.
Well, no. It's my one win of the year where I do nothing. Well, I do the new Norcia experience, which is basically just hanging around chatting and having a look at the place and doing the tour.
Which is actually fantastic and very popular as well.
It's very, very popular.
It's for people who want to just relax, don't want to feel the pressure of having to learn something.
They can come to some of the sessions.
Yeah, there are some sessions that are open. You're right, absolutely.
We do a little concert in the church in the evening with some written words and written performance and so on. So it's it's a great weekend. Is
it Dom Roberts, Father Robert now actually, a wonderful musician and composer. He usually plays the organ and the piano for us as well, which is not to be missed.
I'm just talking about bird life. I'm just looking at Mogens' fantastic drone picture here of the
from last year.
Yeah, I'm aiming to repeat that and better that even.
That's fantastic.
But that's
sort of a sunset picture, and it's a big flock of white Corellas, coming through, and he's got the buildings behind.
It's just gorgeous, isn't it?
Jagged it.
Yeah, I was planned. I spoke to my bird friends, and
we've got Photowalks on February the 12th. We've got the New Norcia weekend on the 29th and 30th of April, and in between and on March the 16th, we've got a round the world dinner, which we do at the University of Western Australia Club in the banquet hall there.
And you and Steve Richter have been hard at work with your words and music.
I have been actually. Oh, I don't know about Richter. Yeah, I have been hard at work. Richter hasn't been yet because Steve.
But he will be.
He can't start until I finish. So I've been writing the scripts for the evening. And actually, I had a lot of fun with that yesterday. So it takes me back to places, and there's one instance here. I was just reading a friend of mine, Daljit Singh, in Delhi. He's a former MiG pilot, a yoga teacher, an astrologer. He speaks 7 languages. He's just this fantastic man. And he was telling me that some mutual friends of ours have been in a car accident, and he's a very spiritual man, clearly. And he says, all eyes see you. And I was thinking about this omnipotent sort of vision, and he goes, no, you idiot. All I see you, they're all in the ICU, the intensive care unit. So there are moments like that with Daljit Singh that come up in the stories.
Yes.
So I've been having a lot of fun revisiting India, ready for that night. That's just one of the places that we go to. So Chef Costas Samatos then matches the food to all the places that we'll go. They are varied. I'm not going to give any more away.
No, of course.
And we've also got a partner in it, presenting partner, which is Singapore Airlines, and all the places that we go to are key places for them. I'm actually flying to New York with them. That's the longest flight in the world, commercial flight, from Singapore to New York City direct. So we'll sort of be explaining more about that aviation as well.
No, it's always a big night, isn't it? Mogens, you enjoy the
absolutely
around the world dinners as well.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Especially for us, Will, we can just sit back.
That's when we get to do nothing.
That's one of the rare occasions where we get to do nothing.
Sit down, enjoy a wonderful dinner with our readers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the food,
the food is sensational, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, I have to agree with you.
The whole crew down there at the University Club, just fantastic. So, I really, really look forward to those evenings. It's great.
Now, I just before I forget, people need to go to westtravelclub.com.au.
Correct.
To check out all our events.
They're all under events. Yep.
I think they're all up there at the moment. Yeah. I'll hear other stuff too. I also wanted to say that we're gonna cross briefly to Bali with you, because you've recorded this lovely piece.
Yeah, I'm just back from Bali and brought some sounds of Bali. There was just a moment on the street there where I was prompted to stop and describe what's going on there.
And I'm hoping that this sets precedent for the new year, where we do a lot more of these, in the moment stories that we bring to you.
Yeah, it'd be great if you two join in.
Mogens?
We'll try.
You're setting the bar pretty high, but okay, well, let's go to Bali. Take us there right now.
I'm guessing that you can guess where I am. Lots of our audience here in Australia, of course, will be so familiar with Bali and the classic Bali holiday. And I'm back in Bali. In fact, I've just walked along from Seminyak to Legian along the beachfront early in the morning. And it's Bali as there we are, there's the horn. It's Bali as we always know it, have known it. It's very quiet. Visitors are arriving, of course, and Australians certainly have been coming back to Bali. But by the same token, there are lots of other countries still not visiting, people from China aren't travelling like they used to yet. So I'm walking on the beachfront, as I say, with the sound of the gamelan and the motorbikes with 3 or 4 people on them, whole families going off to work and to school, of course, along the bars, which are still opening up this morning, but it's a big night scene, as lots of people listening to this will know. Bali is that mix of Hindu culture, holiday, the tropical heat, such lush tropical plants, of course. You could pretty well stick your fingers in here and your fingernails would grow, as they say. Rows and rows of motorbikes and smiles, Certainly Bali's always been welcoming for us, but now even more so, I think. New hotels opening. I'm actually staying at the Grand Mercure in Seminyak, which is, say, just by the beachfront here, really. One little street back, a couple of minutes back. I just had it's their first opening breakfast here in December. So the hotel had a sort of soft opening in September and is fully open now in December. Very big rooms and beautiful 3 outdoor pools. So the whole heart of the hotel are these 3 interesting geometric pools. Wherever you get a view. It's like a little poem through the greenery, through these different colour-coded blue pools. It's very beautiful and, as I say, very welcoming. And of course, people here didn't have the luxury through the pandemic of all the supports that other countries had. So they're very, very pleased to see their visitors back. And it's the nature of Balinese people to be welcoming. So I'm going to carry on walking down the street here and enjoying that welcome.
Yeah, I really love that, Steve. So I actually relate that very much to this sort of first-person present tense style of writing that you do for the pages. This is it, isn't it?
It is.
You're right there,
and you just get that little bit of. There is a sense of. Talking about my own work, I suppose, but there is a sense of place when any of us do those things.
Yes.
Where you could say all that sitting in the studio, but somehow just standing there in the street with the gamelan in the background.
And hearing all those street sounds as well as the gamelan. It's beautiful.
You're definitely there in the moment, which, as you say, is the same as writing as we all do. First person, present tense. So we're always in the moment, And I think that's a bit like that.
Absolutely. Now, we know where you're off to next, Stephen. Mogens, where are you off to next?
I'm heading over to Melbourne in a couple of weeks to sort of do some stories. I mean, one of the main things is we're looking at, Melbourne as the events capital of Australia, I guess, is fair to say. I mean, they do pull more than their fair share of major events, and of course the Australian Open is on here in January, so that's kind of the hook. But I'm going to have a look at some of the other events they got coming up, and I'm going to see a couple of new hotel offerings over there, so I'll be telling our readers about them. And we know where you're off to, Will.
That's
We're
right.
off to the Northern Territory.
Off to the Northern Territory.
And I'm just looking at that here, also on westtravelclub.com.au.
Well, that's a slightly different, because I'm leading that tour. You guys are going over there to collect material for stories and so forth, whereas this is more of a tour, isn't it? More engaged.
Well, it is, but
it's a kind of a nice way of saying I've actually got to do some work. So
yeah, look.
Which I might struggle with, but we'll see.
It's extraordinary. So this is May 13th to the 21st. This is Will drawing on his arts and culture knowledge and background to lead our inaugural West Travel Club art series tour, which is in the Northern Territory. And Will's put together, very much handmade, put together this tour with lots of kind of, immersion experiences with Indigenous art in all its Well,
and
forms there.
And I certainly don't want to frighten people off. I mean, in regard to, say, for example, the gallery visits, and there are so many important galleries in Alice Springs especially, we're just going to go and visit. We're going to go and talk to people there. Sometimes there'll be artists there. Sometimes there'll be the curators or the gallery owners. But I guess the more, if I wanted to say pressure, it's more with the workshops and with the teaching, because this is very much, as you say, very much hands-on. I want to give people a very interactive experience. So we'll be doing a lot of, workshops with the artists where possible, but I'll also be doing some myself, both with the writing and the sort of field sketching and so forth.
Yep. So as we're on the podcast, as opposed to being in print in Western Australia, I'll say for anyone who's listening from overseas that there's such an interest in Indigenous art globally.
Huge.
And this experience is absolutely amazing, and it's handmade and it's a one-off. So that's May the 13th to 21st. So wherever you are, get to Western Australia to join Will on May the 13th, because this probably won't happen again.
Ooh, that's a vote of confidence.
Well, no,
we're going to unleash him once, but we won't make that mistake again.
No, well, our modus operandi is generally to come up with an idea, try and get away with it. Don't ask for feedback and never do it again.
Okay, well, we're slightly modifying that because this is a whole series. We won't be going to Alice again, but we will be going hopefully to, say, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, and then Paris, London, you name it.
So this is just the start of Art Series.
This is just the beginning,
We may not get back to the Northern Territory.
No, that's very fair to say.
Yep. So and that adds a real twist to it, is that they're handmade one-off.
I agree.
That sense.
Unique, yeah.
So I say, if you're sitting listening to this in France, and I know we do have audience in France,
we do.
This is your moment.
This is your moment to come to visit us here in Australia. Wouldn't that be lovely if we had some people from overseas visiting us here at the West Australian as well?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been a great start to the year.
Yeah. And it can only get stronger from here.
just like that coffee we're about to have.
Yes, that's right. I was looking at our calendar for the year, and at this point, and it's not uncommon for me at this point to think, well, I hope we can just get through everything that's planned for this year, because every week we have something. We have such a huge year. We've got 18 travel guides this year, in addition to the usual pages. As I say, we're starting with 32 pages this weekend, so it's an epic year for all of us. Stay strong.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, guys, and talk to you both next week on the pod Well Travelled.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.